Hello, everybody. It's Larry's new wrestling podcast. That stuff. Yes, we're coming at you from the backseat of my car. Yes, my truck, my SUV. This is episode 5 of Larry's new wrestling podcast and stuff. The whole point of the show is, folks, is to make sure you know that no budget is necessary to do a show. And I have no budget. But what I do have is the passion for professional wrestling and stuff. We're going to be bringing this to you live in living color right now from the backseat of my truck. But when you see this, it won't be live anymore. I hate saying that, but you know what? This will be pre-recorded for future view. Anyways, we're back. What we're doing today, folks, we're talking about what's going on in the world of COVID-19. Yes, what's going on in the world of COVID-19? Well, people are going back out. Yes, it's crazy. We are actually going to the clubs. We're going out. We're going to enjoy ourselves again. Crazy. But this situation is really a big deal. Because guess what, folks? As I perspire in the backseat of my truck because it's too hot, it's crazy. We're doing what we can to enjoy life again. We're going out to the clubs, maybe concerts in the future, music, comedy, which I produce, music, which I produce. Let's make it happen, folks. But realize, you're putting your life at risk. Yes, I said it. You're putting your life at risk by going to these venues. You're putting your life at risk by taking the time to realize maybe that girl, that friendly girl, wasn't really worth the attempt. Because guess what's going to happen, folks? You may end up either with that disease or another disease. Trust me, I don't know anything about the other disease or the COVID-19. I do know is a real thing for sure. And I tell you right now, folks, we have to be careful. Because you know what? In the end, if you can't breathe, you're dead. Yes. I'm not a PhD, but I pretty much gather. And I want to be controversial, but I will do this on my own time. There's a lot of stuff that's effed up in the world. But COVID-19, we have no control over. The other stuff we do, we'll talk about that on my regular page. But for this purpose, folks, I'm just going to give you this. When we talk about other stuff, it could be movies, television, commercials. It could be subjects like COVID-19. Stuff that isn't too extreme, but it's a reality. It's facts. It's things that we're going through today. I hope we're doing something by supplying you with some entertainment about professional wrestling. Also about stuff. So, Larry's new wrestling podcast, we're definitely going to continue to talk about things. We're still definitely going to continue to believe that Larry Lawrence, the name's so nice, they named him twice, has something to share. And I hope you have something to share by becoming a subscriber and being able to listen. And that way we can share in the message together of getting the world back to some type of normalcy. I really miss being able to produce comedy. I really miss being able to go socialize because I'm single and sexy, but nobody cares. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people that realize that there's so much to do and so little time. And I think right now, the time is, as John Cena would say, the time is now. I'm sorry I had to. I'm not a huge John Cena fan, but I'm not a huge John Cena hater. Smart businessman. And speaking of John Cena, he'll be a part of our subject today as we talk about the Undertaker Redemption. That is chapter 2 of the Undertaker series. Now, folks, this series from the WWE documentary film series, which is brand new to the network, is a great, different view of the Undertaker. And not just the Undertaker, but anything they've done. They've done these documentaries, but now I guess they fall under an umbrella of documentary films that the WWE is going to be producing for only $9.99 a month. And I really enjoyed chapter 2, and I'll tell you why. It's because we go through the second part. Let's take you back and review the first part where we get introduced to the human side of the Undertaker. A guy who's put his heart, his body, his everything for the business of professional wrestling. And we have to appreciate that as a fan, as a connoisseur of the product. And what's going on is we're learning that The Undertaker is going through this really big transition. It's a very big soap opera, once again, in a different way, because wrestling kind of is a male soap opera. And I've never even really discussed this yet, but to me, that's what got me into it, the storylines. And so we're taking into the Undertaker storyline of how he's going through this very difficult time in his life, where he's getting older. He's in his 50s now, so he's not really the old Undertaker. Well, literally, he is the old Undertaker. Get it? Anyways, folks, let's focus. We are getting the perspective of a guy who is soul searching. No pun intended, because he's the Undertaker. He takes souls and he reaps them. You see this material, it just writes itself, folks. I don't write it, it just writes itself. I had notes, I even forgot to bring them, so I'm going off of my memory of things that I thought would be interesting to talk about. The Undertaker takes us on a journey of his wife and how important she is in Chapter 2. I really was taken by this because of the fact that Michelle McCool, who's his wife wrestler, who's also a former wrestler who's retired now, she retired because not of injury, but I think she obviously married the Undertaker, and she's good. Wouldn't you be good if you're with him all the time? I don't know if they signed a prenup. Actually, I don't know if she's good. Let's hope she stays married to him. Anyways, they have a kid together. So either way, they're going to be sharing expenses. You see how we go, folks? We just go off on a tirade on different directions on Larry's new wrestling podcast. We're going to be doing this, folks, every week for you. I hope you tune in. You subscribe. We're on YouTube now. We're on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We're on Spotify. We're all over, folks. Tune in and find us. Wherever. Listen to me if you don't like my face, because I have a face for radio. I get it. So what I'm going to tell you right now is we're going to continue to believe that The Undertaker is going to take us on a journey through Chapter 3, 4, and 5 of this. I believe it's a 5-part series. But once again, we back to focus with about his wife. I didn't realize how important now she is in regards to his career. Now, they met probably 10 or 15 years deep into his career in the early 2000s when she first started. And he was divorced. He had a woman named Sarah he was married to, and he covered up the tattoo. They're not going to talk about her during this documentary, but I'm going to tell you right now, he was previously married. She was in a storyline with Diamond Dallas Page back in the early 2000s, but in the mid-2000s, I believe he divorced her, and then he got the tattoo covered up on his neck of Sarah. So Michelle McCool, his second wife, is the main focus in this documentary. See, I gave you a little background to show you the wrestling encyclopedia. That's Larry Lawrence's twisted brain. And I tell you, folks, WWE and AEW, they're going to get the privilege of being able to work with this guy if they give me a chance. Or the NWA, or Ring of Honor, or whoever wants to hire Larry Lawrence. The name's so nice, they named him twice. Cheap plug. Anyways, we're doing this, folks, for a reason. We're doing this to make sure that we get the message that we want wrestling to be great again. Not the Trump deal, but professional wrestling. Even though he was the host of WrestleMania 4 and 5. Wrestling Encyclopedia. So, Macho Man Randy Savage, the tournament, WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers explode at the same location. And this time, Macho Man. Tune into the network to find out what happened next. You see that, folks? Cheap plug for Larry Lawrence Wrestling Encyclopedia. I'm not selling it. I should, though. I should write a book about wrestling because I've been watching it since I was 8 years young. And my grandfather influenced me. God rest his soul. He was a huge influence in my life and murdered on Halloween night. And I tell you, this man is a big part of my situation. He was a crop duster in Iraq. I am Iraqi. I'm undercover. You can't tell by looking at me. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, of course you can't tell because you're not seeing me. Anyways, you see how we go, folks? We go on a tirade of excitement and funny. If you didn't think that was funny, whatever. I thought it was. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you think. That was a Dwayne Johnson reference, a.k.a. The Rock, a.k.a. the multi-million-dollar man, Mr. Hollywood, but not Ted DiBiase. Anyways, but DiBiase is a born-again Christian. You see, the Wrestling Encyclopedia. You should watch the $1 Million Man documentary. Actually, I haven't watched it either yet, so I need to watch it. Let's put it on the list. That's Chris Jericho. You just made the list! Golly, man. You see what happens, folks, on wrestling's newest podcast, Larry's new wrestling podcast. Tell your friends, subscribe on YouTube and wherever, and like it on Facebook, like it on Instagram, like it on Twitter, like it wherever you follow me. I'm not a cult guy. I'm not like that Kevorkian guy, but hey, I'm just a good guy. Anyways, I just wanted to put it out there. You thought you were like on... The worst thing you do in radio is, they call it dead air. No pun intended. We're talking about The Undertaker. So The Undertaker, back to focus, and his wife are a great, great, great package. They, not the total package Lex Luger, but we actually have a very important situation that The Undertaker is going through a period of time where he does not want to be physically he's older, but he doesn't want to be an image of what he was at WrestleMania 33 when he took on Roman Reigns, and that match made him cringe. He watched it again. A lot of people don't watch their old stuff, but he did for that match. He wanted to know if he still had it. Like when the fans give the old wrestler that, "You still got it." I don't like that chant. Anyways, but it is what it is. It's today's wrestling fan. And what it is basically telling The Undertaker is that he still has the ability to perform like he did back in the 90s and the early 2000s. The older Undertaker wants to feel that way again, even though Father Time is against him. But Vince McMahon is also brought into the equation, and he also tells him, if you need to hang it up, it's okay, because he's not pressuring him anymore like he wanted him every WrestleMania. But since the streak was broken by Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns defeats him at WrestleMania 33, he feels like he didn't want to walk away from the ring, putting the jacket and the gloves and the hat down in the middle of the ring. He thought it was over. He really thought that was it. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And fortunately, it was. Because the guy is willing to put his body, and I say unfortunately because what else does he have to prove? But during this documentary, he says, I need to prove it to the world. I need to prove it to myself. You don't have anything to prove, Undertaker. You've done it, my man. You've done everything this business requires and then some. When you have guys like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair praising your ability, you've had more longevity with one character and successfully than any other individual and probably in wrestling history of the modern era, as Vince McMahon would say, era. What else do you have to prove? Seriously. Look at me doing a podcast. I'm trying to prove I deserve a big payday. I'm trying to prove that I should be taking my game to the next level because I know I'm that damn good. Like Triple H. I'll never be that good of a wrestler. I was a pretty good manager. Shikasan number one. And I'll tell you, I was very proud of my efforts as a manager, managing big name wrestlers. And I swear to you, I appreciate their friendship more than anything else. And till this day, I can go into my phone and call them. Those individuals know who they are, and I'm happy that they respect me enough. And I hope that I'm able to work with them in the near future by doing an interview on this very podcast. So, folks, we'll leave it at that, to be continued, like Back to the Future. And I'll tell you right now, we're going to continue to do these shows. But back to focus. Episode 2 takes us on this epic journey of a man looking for redemption. That's why the episode is called Chapter 2, The Redemption, where we see The Undertaker go under the knife once again to replace his right side after his left had been already surgically repaired, his hip. And he's been in chronic pain for 15 years. The wife laughs, and he laughs when the nurses are asking about his injuries and the list of surgeries, should I say. And he lists the injuries of what he had repaired. This man is the bionic man. And he said the career wouldn't have been the same had he not gone through all these things where he can't even open his hands fully. He can't, you see what I'm doing? Undertaker can't do this, folks. And if you can't see it, it's because you're listening on iTunes. And folks, I tell you, just to visually see him try to open his hand and he couldn't, it's sad. And I also have a pinky from doing something stupid a long time ago that I can bend all the way. And that's because just don't get drunk and fight. Anyways, we're not going to talk about that story. Anyways, so we're going to focus on The Undertaker, who did fight for many, many years and injured himself. And he did something for us as fans. He basically gave himself to the business. He gave himself up, his body, physical. He didn't care if he wasn't able to see grandkids someday for a business that really gave him his living where he didn't have to go do a 9 to 5 every day. But he was one of the main focuses in sports. Not just sports entertainment, but sports. Everybody, if you ask from any sport, you say The Undertaker, they're going to go, yeah, I know that guy. That's the dead man. I got tongue twisted because I was trying to say the dead man, The Undertaker. Oh, yes, as Paul Bearer would say. My Undertaker. But we don't get the aspect of Paul Bearer, really, and I'm pretty disappointed about that he was a great influence manager with the urn and all kinds of ways. The ashes came out of the urn, the light came out of the urn. This urn was like multitask urn. It did everything. It came in different sizes, different versions of it over the decades. The documentary doesn't talk about that, but Larry's new wrestling podcast does, because he's the wrestling encyclopedia. Damn, I'm sweaty back. See. Anyways, it's like I'm working out, brother. And then we go from the surgery to the workout. We show the Undertaker, who wants one more match at WrestleMania, because Vince McMahon says, yes, you prove to me you're good to go, I'll book you. And it's a huge draw for WrestleMania 34, where they line him up with John Cena. And guess what, folks? Yes, I just did the wave in front of my face for those that are watching on the camera. For those at home, I just did the you can't see me. And John Cena is transitioning into Hollywood. And I tell you right now, I don't think that was the right opponent. I don't think they chose the right person for that match. Reason why is because WrestleMania 34, he did have the opportunity to redeem himself, because that was a very, very bad match in Undertaker's eyes. Because he was overweight, out of shape, chronic pain. He really wasn't happy with the result. And Roman Reigns, he even apologizes to, which he shouldn't have, because Roman Reigns was honored to be in the same ring with that gentleman, because he knows who he is, since Roman Reigns comes from a very famous Samoan background where his father was also in the ring in the 70s. And I believe his dad is Alpha, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up, but I think either Alpha or Sika, but I think his dad is Alpha. I'll look it up. Anyways, and we'll correct it on the next show, because we're in the middle of recording. I believe it's Alpha. Anyways, so, of the Wild Samoans. Anyways, I believe that was their name. Yes, the Wild Samoans. Managed by Captain Lou Albano, the wrestling encyclopedia. Folks, I'll tell you right now, the most important thing you realize is that this man gets the chance to come back in the ring. He gets the chance in front of the live audience, because at the end of 33, people were crying. Fans were crying when they saw him walking away from the ring. They felt it too, like this was it. So they were emotionally invested in this character. And that's amazing, to have that much impact. I don't think any other wrestler, even Hogan or Flair, had as much, I hate to say it because I'm a huge Hogan and Flair fan, had as much impact as The Undertaker did on fans. Because to me, I just noticed, and I wasn't a huge Undertaker fan, and it makes me mad that I wasn't, because it was a great character. And at WrestleMania 22, I remember, I even left and walked around the stadium during the Undertaker-Batista match. I can admit it, because I felt like it was my time to explore, because I was so not into it. I was like, yeah, Undertaker's going to win again. It's the streak. We get it. But I was also inebriated, and I wasn't focused on how special this moment was. So I do regret it. But I do also know I was in front of 80,000, 60 to 70,000, there at the Pontiac Silverdome. No, I'm feeling like Hogan now when I make the mistake at the Superdome. Anyways, people who watch WrestleMania 30 will understand that reference. He called it the Superdome, Silverdome, not the Superdome, which that was the name of the location. But he was the host, and he's older, and it's okay. Anyways, I focused now. I was at Ford Field, and I walked around the stadium, and I tell you, man, it was a beautiful stadium. I took it all in, but I shouldn't have done it during the Undertaker match. I should have done it during a match that maybe wasn't as significant. But no disrespect to Batista or the Undertaker. I really believe that the Undertaker is an epic phenomenon. His entrance is like no other. Slow, ominous, but I do love the badass character. I probably would have sat in my chair for the American Badass, especially if they keep rolling, the Limp Bizkit song, or Kid Rock, whichever music he came out to. I tell you, the Undertaker badass character on the motorcycle, I love that character. I think it's so cool, and I'm glad they brought that one back at WrestleMania 35 when I'm fast forwarding. But let's focus on 34. The Undertaker in that match really is just a phenom, as I call him, great wrestler. At WrestleMania 34, he really took over, and he really gave us a match that gave us a sense of the Undertaker once again. And it really feels good to know that I was a witness to this match, because, I thought it was a squash match. I said, damn, The Undertaker's back, but why would you make John Cena lose in 5 minutes? It's because he's transitioning from Hollywood, or from wrestling to Hollywood. And I get it, but it sucks for The Undertaker, because I don't think John Cena could really take any physicality, because his Hollywood agents probably said, you can only do this much, and this is what's permitted. And I don't think The Undertaker can admit that on his documentary and bury John Cena for it, because that's just not the way it is, because he's a respectful guy. But there's certain points in number 3, which we'll talk about in the next episode, that basically episode 3, that I think that he's going to reveal that John Cena kind of didn't give him what he deserved. And he wanted to reveal, but unfortunately he couldn't. And I sensed that, by the way, of his tone in the chair at his house, that he really wants to say, well, John Cena shouldn't have been my appointment, because he could have gone for another 20, 30 minutes of fighting and really turned it up and made it a really big brawl where The Undertaker comes out of it on top. But we got what we got, and now we're going to transition into episode 3, where we see that he has a tag team match with Shawn Michaels, who comes out of retirement for money and they don't admit it either, but they're going overseas and they're getting good money. And I believe it. And I think that's part of the reason why Shawn Michaels came out of his retirement, but we'll talk about that on the next episode. They're getting good money from Saudi Arabia, and there's a lot of bit of political BS from that. Some wrestlers like John Cena and The Rock will not go over there because of due to political views. But Vince McMahon made a relationship happen with the Saudis, and they're making big money doing shows in Saudi Arabia. Obviously not now, during COVID-19, but eventually, when things are back to normal and they allow us to go back to arenas, they're going to be going back to Saudi Arabia, because they have a contract to fulfill with the Saudis to do shows over there. And so that's the next episode. We'll be talking about that match that happens in Saudi Arabia. So we're going to be wrapping up this episode right now, folks, because what I can tell you from my overview of this episode of The Redemption is that we're getting the perspective of The Undertaker, that gives us a sense of understanding. A guy has sacrificed his body, his heart, his mind, his everything for this business. His wife is invested in his career. They know that every time he says he's going to retire, he's like a rock star. Or like for example, the Rolling Stones always saying, like Kiss always saying, oh, it's our farewell tour. No, it's not. You're going to come back because you're not dead yet. No pun intended. The dead man is not dead. And I think that's really what it takes for The Undertaker to retire. He's got to die. And I'm not wishing that on him, but that's how passionate the man is about this business, that he's willing to die for it. And that says a lot about his character as a human being, not just as a character wrestler. That he really loves the world of professional wrestling. And us as fans should say thank you, Undertaker. Thank you for giving us the entertainment. Thank you for giving us all of your energy till this day. In 2020, you just wrestled at WrestleMania, and you were in a scripted mini-movie, which we'll talk about on the next episode, where you actually, well, maybe we'll have to wait till the series is over, because I think that's where they take us. They take us into that match at WrestleMania this past year. I believe, I won't know until they see all the episodes. They're going to be doing number 4, so in the next episode, we're going to focus on number 3. And I'll tell you, folks, right now, I'm very proud to share with you that The Undertaker is a big, big part of us today in 2020. And I look forward to sharing more about this very epic documentary series with you, the fan base. Sorry, I got deep, so I changed my tone. But hopefully the audio, you'll hear me loud and clear. Folks, thank you for tuning in once again to Larry's new wrestling podcast. So, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. If you want to donate to the show so we have big name guests, please click on that app down there. It's not there right now where I'm pointing, but it will be there. It's a cash app that allows us to share opportunities with the world, which is to book big name wrestlers and big name people to come on our show. And if you really are a big money maker person, we love to have you help us out and continue to thrive what's already built. I know people like Joe Rogan. I'll give him a plug because he just sold his show for $100 million to Spotify. We're not looking to sell a show that's brand new, folks. Well, I am actually. But we know what we can do. We know what we can bring to you. We know this is bigger. It's coming from Lightning Strike Studios. My longtime personal friend, my producer, my brother from a different mother. I know, like Vince McMahon, he doesn't like to be acknowledged, but Nebras, thank you, sir, for helping our show come to life. And I'll tell you right now, folks, I'm very proud of what we're doing. from Lightning Strike Studios. It's a great product, and I couldn't do it without my partnership, my business friendship, and brotherhood from my friend from my comedy background. He's a big-time guy that deserves a lot of praise for his work, and I thank him for editing these shows and producing them with me. And thank you, folks, for tuning in. And please donate to that Cash App, and please help us out, get the word out there for Larry's new wrestling podcast. As we've gone into the 25th minute, my lucky number is 25 because I was born on September 25th, and birthday presents around September are greatly appreciated. Like Bobby the Brain Heenan said, please, I accept cash during his Hall of Fame speech. Wrestling Encyclopedia. I'm telling you, folks, you ask me, I shall answer to the best of my knowledge and my ability on the sport. I said sport/entertainment. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. And as I leave you once again with my tagline, Michael J. Fox was a starving actor, but he's dealt with a bigger deal, Parkinson's. So we ask simply, always focus on the positive, because your life is whatever you make of it. Let's go out there into the world today and simply make it a great one. Thank you for tuning in to Larry's new wrestling podcast. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye now.